Grandpa's Radio, a heartfelt childhood memory. Lily loved visiting her grandpa's house in the countryside. It was an old wooden house with a big garden full of flowers and fruit trees. But what she loved most was the dusty old radio sitting on a shelf in Grandpa's living room. "Grandpa, why do you still keep this radio? It's so old," Lily asked one day. Grandpa smiled and gently touched the radio. "This radio is very special, my dear. When I was a little boy, my father used to play music for me every night before bed, and when your mother was little, I did the same for her." Lily's eyes widened. "Mum used to listen to this radio?" Grandpa nodded. "Yes. Every night she would sit beside me and we would listen to beautiful melodies. Sometimes she would even fall asleep on my lap." That night, after dinner, Grandpa turned the knob on the radio. It crackled, and then a soft, warm melody filled the room. Lily closed her eyes and imagined her mom as a little girl, sitting beside Grandpa, listening to the same music. When Lily went home the next day, she excitedly told her mom about the old radio. Her mother smiled but had tears in her eyes. "I remember those nights," her mom said softly. "Grandpa would hum along and I always felt safe and loved." A few months later, Grandpa passed away. When Lily and her mom returned to the old house, everything felt different. The house was quiet and the radio sat on the shelf untouched. Lily's mom walked over and turned the knob. The same warm melody played, and for a moment, it felt like Grandpa was still there, smiling at them. Lily held her mother's hand and whispered, "I think Grandpa is listening with us." And at that moment, they both cried, not just because they missed Grandpa, but because his love and memories would always stay in their hearts, just like the music from the old radio. As the soft melody played from the old radio, Lily and her mother sat in silence, letting the memories of Grandpa fill the empty spaces in the room. The warm glow of the evening sun filtered through the window, casting a golden hue over everything, just like the warmth Grandpa had always brought into their lives. Lily wiped her tears and looked at her mother. "Mum, can we keep the radio?" Her mother nodded, her voice trembling. "Of course, sweetheart. Grandpa would have wanted that." Lily carefully picked up the radio and hugged it close. It was old and a little dusty, but to her, it was now the most precious thing in the world. That night, back home, Lily placed the radio on her bedside table. She turned the knob, and once again the familiar crackling sound filled the air, followed by the same melody Grandpa used to love. As she lay in bed, she closed her eyes and imagined him sitting beside her, humming softly like he used to. The thought made her smile. "Good night, Grandpa," she whispered. And in that moment, she felt as if Grandpa's love wrapped around her like a warm embrace, reminding her that even though he was gone, he would always be with her, in the music, in the memories, and in her heart.